तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। So, we saw certain aspects of Karma Yoga. We saw that it's a technical term, and the first aspect of Karma Yoga is Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. What is Vyavasayatmika Buddhi? You remember?
I think the last time I was there. But I can guess what it means.
Okay.
That whatever you are supposed to do it properly.
Okay.
Your trade, your profession, whatever.
This is in the sense of.
Yeah, we have got Vyavaharika and
Vyavasayika is it?
Yeah.
Pratipasika.
No. Vyavasayatmika Buddhi is, by definition, it is Nishchayatmika Buddhi. What is Nishchayatmika Buddhi? Nishchayatmika Buddhi is, what am I searching for in life, which is what? Moksha. Okay? And how is moksha going to, how is the pursuit of moksha going to be fulfilled? Through what? Now I'm asking you.
Yes. What is the main goal of my life to achieve moksha?
Yeah.
And then Antakaran Shuddhi.
Yeah, that is a big. Okay, the end is moksha. Moksha is gained by knowledge of oneself.
Yes.
Because if one is basically limited, there is no solution to one's search. So that means the nature of the pursuit is that I need to know my true nature. So therefore, if I need to know my true nature, what is necessary? Knowledge. First is knowledge, right? So therefore, I pursue the knowledge. How do I pursue the knowledge? We call the whole process of pursuing knowledge as Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam. Shravanam means listening to the Vedas and Bhagavad Gita. Trying to, see, one thing is just listening to them, but what happens is, we listen to Bhagavad Gita and Upanishad, but we impute the meaning according to our likes and dislikes. So therefore, what happens is, everybody studies Bhagavad Gita, but they come up with their own ideas of what Bhagavad Gita is talking about. And not only they come up with their own ideas, and they propagate their own ideas. So part of Shravanam is what we call Tatparya Nishchaya. Tatparya Nishchaya is a very important part of Shravanam. What is Tatparya Nishchaya? If I want to study a book, which is, let's say, Gita, I can't come up with my own ideas of what Gita is talking about. I need to really understand what is Lord Krishna's intention. What is he trying to convey? Okay? And put all my opinions aside. Only then I can actually learn any text. Otherwise, I learn a text as long as it confirms what I already believe in. If you are looking to learn something just to confirm what you believe in, you don't learn anything, because that you knew already before. Okay? So therefore, that requires putting aside all your opinions on one side and really finding out what is being said by this text. And for that, there is a lot of analysis done. So this is why this Adi Shankaracharya's commentaries on Gita he doesn't only explain what Gita is saying or Upanishad is saying, he looks at many other different contentions and he says, if you take it like this is the logical flaw. So you can't take it like that. So he substantiates his particular, we can't say viewpoint, but his understanding of Upanishad. Okay? By looking at different people, their opinions on what Gita is talking about, and he says that if this was true, then it should not be contradicted by logic, but because it is being contradicted by logic, we can't take this particular view, we have to take this one. Okay? So there is this is what we call the whole analysis, which is inherent in Shravanam. It is not just listening, because just listening means whoever is talking, you will start listening and you will start believing. That will not lead you anywhere. Okay? Then the other one is Mananam. Okay, you have understood what is the intention of Bhagavad Gita, but with reference to your understanding, you may still have doubts. Okay? This is what Lord Krishna wants to say, that Atma is limitless, but I have a doubt, how is it so? So that process of reflecting on your personal doubts and getting rid of your personal doubts so that you can see the vision that is conveyed by Bhagavad Gita or Upanishad, that process is what we call Mananam. Okay? And the third is Nididhyasanam. Because what it says, Nididhyasanam, means contemplation. Okay? Because what it says about you is so different from what you think about yourself, so there is certain amount of dwelling into this reality which is required. Okay? Seeing it from many different standpoints, seeing how what it says is true, how it cannot be contradicted, and assimilate it with reference to your life and your being, so that there is not just kind of, something that you have heard in class for 1 hour and you see the logic and then it is forgotten and you continue to do whatever you were doing and continue to live the way you were living. So that kind of a thing is what? That creates a dichotomy. Okay? One thing is what you kind of understand because you follow the logic in Bhagavad Gita class, but the minute you go out, your behaviors continue according to your old way of thinking. Okay? And what is your old way of thinking? I'm this limited individual, right? And I'm constantly trying to manipulate the world according to my wishes, and that continues. So therefore, there are two knowledges coexisting in your buddhi, and they've not been reconciled. So therefore, that reconciliation is what we do through Nididhyasanam, through contemplation. Okay? So this is the process of what we call pursuit of knowledge. So if I want to know the nature of Atma as it is, I need to expose myself to the teaching, listen to it, remove my doubts, reflect upon it. This process is what we call knowledge, okay? Pursuit of knowledge. But the pursuit of knowledge itself will not produce the result unless you have worked on what? Your personal attitudes in some ways. That is your emotional aspect. Okay? What is your emotional life? Emotional life is, what do you think about yourself? What do you think about the world? What are your responses to different situations, especially when things don't happen your way? Are you getting angry? Are you getting sad? Are you having fears about future? Okay? Because nobody knows what exactly is to come. So how many fears are you governed by? So this is what we call the emotional life. And it makes sense that unless you fix that emotional life, how will you then understand you're the whole? Let's say you're caught by fear and you're paranoid about small things. Now what will happen? Will I get my promotion or not? And your mind is totally occupied by that. Okay? How will you understand limitlessness? It's impossible. You need to first become a person who can handle day-to-day life with a certain maturity, with a certain perspective. Only then you can get the knowledge. Okay? So therefore, along with this process of what? Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, you also continue to what? Engage in the world, and engaging in the world will make you realize what kind of responses you have towards situations, and then you can undo some of the distortions so that you can live well. So this is what we call Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means that only knowledge, just reflecting on Shastra, which is what we call cognitive process, okay, will not do the job. You need to take care of your emotional being also. Okay? And this particular thing that you know, that because otherwise people say that if knowledge is going to get me what I'm looking for, let me leave everything and just pursue the knowledge. And this is where he says that if you just leave everything, you deprive yourself of an opportunity to what? Undergo emotional growth. And if you deprive yourself, knowledge will not take place. So this is what we call Nishchayatmika Buddhi. What will get me what? Knowledge will get me the freedom, but in order to prepare myself for the knowledge, I continue to engage in the world. Okay? I don't leave everything and just pursue knowledge. Once I continue to engage in the world, I am a Karma Yogi. But Karma Yogi who knows that I want moksha. And for that moksha, knowledge is something which is non-negotiable. And this is why I expose myself to Upanishads and Gita and understand what is my real nature, but along with that, engage in the world with the view to what? Become an objective, big-hearted person, take care of certain distortions so that I become eligible for knowledge. This is what he says is Nishchayatmika Buddhi. He says if that is not clear, then Bahushakha Anantascha Buddhayo Avyavasayina. If you haven't really seen that what will get you moksha and what is necessary, if that is not very clear, he says Bahushakha Anantascha. There are many things that you would look for your freedom, and that is unlimited. What all different pursuits that you can do. Okay? Everybody wants ultimately moksha. What is moksha? Everybody does everything for ultimately one's freedom. Okay? Some people are seeking that freedom through what? Money. Some people are seeking that freedom through power. Some people are seeking that freedom through different forms of pleasure. Some people are seeking freedom through just being a good human being. So that means everybody is interested in freedom, but people are doing different things for it. Okay? And there is no end to it, because you can do that and it will give you some pleasure, but it will not make you totally a fulfilled person. So this is what he says, that you can do anything, but that will not give you the fulfillment that you are searching for. Okay? Then you enter the so-called spiritual world, and it's the same thing. You go to any spiritual magazine, there are so many offers, so many, some techniques, some meditation, some seeing of blue light, starting from also some health techniques, meditation, all kinds of different yoga. You have so many different options, and how will you choose what will give you freedom? How will you choose? You have only one logic, that basically if I am limited, there is no solution, because whatever is the intrinsic nature, you cannot give it up. Okay? A salt is salty, you cannot make it non-salty. If sugar is sweet, you can't make it non-sweet. Okay? So therefore, the only way is I am already free from limitation, and this is what Shastra is telling me. So that's why I need to listen to Shastra and see what it has to say about my nature. Okay? So this is, if that is not ascertained, then you can just go to millions of different things, many different avenues, but you will not, again, everything will give you some transitory fulfillment, some kind of a happiness, but it will not end your search. Okay? So this is the first condition for Karma Yoga, placing why knowledge and why karma. That is very important. Now, having placed the importance of karma as that which, as Malay is saying, give you antakarna shuddhi. Now, how will I use karma for my antakarna shuddhi? So that is the next verse that we talked about. Just understanding certain facts about karma. Because whole life is nothing but what? We have to make choices about actions and we have to respond to the results. If you can do these two things well, your life is easy. Okay? Make a right choice, appropriate choice, enlightened choice, and then what? Take the result. Now, why do we have so much difficulty in either of the two or both? Why do we have such a difficulty in responding to situations appropriately or in making right choices?
Could be that it's a real grey area where, for instance, with Arjun and his Vishad Yoga, that he has some real dilemma to face. Or it could be that I have a weakness, and while my conscious or superego is saying, do this, this is morally correct, or this is what you should do, another part of me is saying, yeah, but you know, you can have that potato chip, because what would one potato chip, you know, harm you, and just have that bag. And so there's a weakness that is conflicting.
Okay. So, Lord Krishna.
This is one reason.
This is
the
one.
other reason is, supposing I am there is some transaction between him and me, and at some point I say that if I say this to him, he is going to react negatively, so might as well not say it. So you avoid certain situations because you don't want negative consequences.
This is very true. And this is why, in fact, we don't communicate. And
We don't
because
communicate.
we don't communicate, we actually aggravate the problem, because you stay with your dissatisfaction and your next interaction with that person is not totally free.
Is limited.
Right? Because
But I don't know whether your interaction with anybody can be totally
no, it
open
cannot
and
be.
free, you know.
No, but it's all relative, right? Relatively, if you
Yeah.
go and attend any communication 101 class, okay, what will they teach you? Say what you have to say,
Yeah.
but don't say it in an aggressive manner.
Aggressive.
Right? Because generally what happens is, either we are aggressive, we just start blaming somebody, or what we call, we are passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Passive aggressive
You don't
means
say
you
anything.
don't say anything. So that means you are boiling, but then you are just kind of containing the expression, but you are holding on to it.
But on the other
Which-
hand, if you're talking to children, young children, you know, under the age of 12 or something, it's a much easier conversation.
Yeah, because
You know that he doesn't have any four ways of looking at things, you know. He says exactly what he wants to say.
No preconceived notions.
yeah. And also I think at that age sometimes the kids just they just have to listen to parents, because they are kind of young, so they are unable to kind of speak up, and they are unable to say things to you, so that's easier. But the same case when they become 16 or 17,
Then it is
and
different.
when they start replying back, then it is totally
Then it's
different.
it's a very
Yeah.
difficult transaction.
Yeah, exactly, right? So that means until the time that they are not capable of kind of
As you
replying
said,
back.
as you said, grey area, lack of knowledge.
Yeah,
So for that reason also they may keep quiet.
yeah, exactly.
And after that, when they go out in the world, they say that, no, I also know. Not only that you know, I also know. That is what comes in mind.
And that's where the conflicts happen, because you have a different idea and they have a different idea about how they want to live life, you know. And that's what creates so much friction.
On the other hand, you know, each one of us has our ability to see is limited, and each one of us sees the world differently.
And that is
That
true.
cannot be helped.
That cannot be helped, but what can be helped is that what you think. Exactly. First is communication, and second, your own understanding that I don't know anything, everything. Right? Once
Yeah.
you acknowledge that, when you make a statement, you can say, this is what I think, and that is true. Okay? But this is the thing.
Yeah.
This is how we do, right? Whatever I think seems like the right
That's
thing,
the only way.
that's the only way. And that's where we go wrong. Because we all have opinions, right? Nobody can not have opinions, right? But if you can be objective about your opinions and say, this is how I see it, that means you're open to the possibility that it can be seen in some other way. And then you're open to listening to other standpoints. Because now, from your own standpoint, you say that, okay, now mine may not be the view, it is just a point of view. Okay? So this is also very important in communication, that every time our teacher used to say that when you say this is like this, you're not being objective because you can have so many of your projections. But if you say according to me this is like this, then you're objective because you are factoring in the possibility that things may not be according to what you think how they are. Okay? So and if you start believing in that, then what will happen? Your way of interacting with everybody will change very fundamentally. Because you want to listen, you want to learn and not all the time impose your standpoint. So, but here Lord Krishna starts by two simple facts. Karmani eva adhikarahate. Okay? If my whole life is about making choices and responding to result, I must know, okay, where is it which is my free will. Last time we had a discussion on free will. Okay, where does my free will lie and where does my free will end? That you must know. Okay, so he says that when you choose an action, then you do have a free will. It may not be, see, when we say free will, it may not be like totally free will. We are not talking about I can, oh, today I want to fly, so I will fly. Not that type of a free will. Okay? But within a certain program, I can choose. This is something which we call free will, within a certain limited range. Okay? Now, once I choose a given action, is the result something that I totally control?
No, not at all.
No.
I know that last time you dropped the paper.
Yeah, exactly, right? So therefore, with reference to action, I have a choice, but with reference to the result, I don't have a choice. It comes to me. So if it comes to me, then I have two other possibilities. Either it comes to me and how is it decided? It is random or it is taken care of by laws. So which of the two possibilities is more likely?
Causality, laws.
Causality,
Yes.
right? Because there is a causality. In fact, if things were random, you would have no idea to achieve this, what you should do. Okay? The very fact that you make decisions and say, if I want this, this is what I should do, what does it mean? You understand that there is a causality.
But there is also an element of randomness. Or in the sense,
See,
I have to give
there
you
is
an
a-
example. Supposing there is a row of ants,
Yes.
right, and somebody steps, 3 ants will die. The other ants will live. Now this is random.
Well, what one could argue is, I'm just being that everything is, even all of science is based on some causality.
Correct.
So these ants, it could be predicted that
Which
they
ant
would
is going to be random?
yes, they would forage at this
Where,
time.
at which place that fellow is coming, how the ants are
Yes.
going.
It might be apparent to us or apparent randomness, but actually there is a underlying
Law of
rules
probability.
or
Yeah.
causal chains that are
That is true.
causing these things.
Or at the last moment he has a trip and his foot falls somewhere else. Even
Yes.
that is given that stone is
That
there.
stone was there. My eyes were.
That's hardly an argument. Then anything can be explained away by something.
Yes,
That's not an
yes.
argument at all.
Well,
That's actually reinforcing randomness. Because you cannot give me a law.
This is a law. What I am
The
saying
problem
is,
is
what
that
he's saying
these
is,
laws are interacting in ways that are so complex
Exactly.
that it is
Yeah,
hard for me as a human being
Exactly.
to trace them.
Okay,
but
if
they are
you-
being traced by the divine mind, which is perhaps unlimited in power and comprehension.
or if you put it in terms of an equation, the number of variables are so many we don't know all of them.
Exactly.
That's a very simple way of putting it. I mean, and very fair way of putting
That
it.
is why we put the end part as plus a random effect. And that random is so many other variables which I don't know what they are.
See, the thing is, what seems to us like random, in fact,
Yeah.
we say is unknown to us.
That's it.
Okay, so they are unknown variables.
Right.
From our standpoint, they are unknown variables, but from the standpoint of the universe and the way it works, it takes care of interactions of so many different variables which we don't know about. Okay, so this is why we say that there are laws which operate from much bigger what knowledge than what we are capable of knowing at any given point in time. Once you know that, then what is going to be, so that means let's say you have done, you want something and you have performed an action and then the result comes, what would be your attitude? If you understand that there are laws at work which take into account so many other variables which are not known to you.
I would be more accepting and I would feel justice has been done.
Exactly, right? So that
It depends
means-
upon the result. If the result is in your favor, you think you have done a good job.
Or
If
I-
it is not in your favor, you say there are other variables here.
But
Convenience.
No,
Not convenient.
what we are
It's
talking
the
about.
psychological
It's
limitations.
touching on the prasad.
Say psychological convenience.
Exactly. See, what we are talking about is in the next verse, it says Samatvam Yoga Uchyate.
Yes.
Okay? What is Samatvam? How will you
Balanced
get Samatvam?
perspective.
Exactly. Samatvam, because when things don't happen your way,
Except
generally what happens is there is a twofold approach. One is you blame yourself and you say you're not
Yeah.
good, okay, and you can't get anything right, or you
You
blame
blame the
somebody.
world.
Exactly. Either the whole world, that the world is not fair, or one particular person who you think was on your way to get what you wanted. Okay? So that means the whole thing is, and once you get caught in that cycle where there is either a self-blame or self-depreciation or blaming the world or a person, then there is anger, then there is frustration. Now once you get into that mode, then how much are you available to make some constructive actions to identify, okay, if this is what I want, what can I do better next time to get what I want? Okay? See, one thing is very important. When we say there are laws, it doesn't mean that now the law has given me this result, so I give up and the laws are perfect. That's not what we are saying. We are saying that the laws have produced the result according to the cause-effect relationship. If I still want something, I still can make an effort. Okay? That free will is still available to me. Okay? To identify what could I have possibly overlooked and constructively try to work on
Yes.
that to improve my possibility of getting it. Okay? But if I get caught in this emotional response of self-blame and blaming somebody else, how closer am I getting to this the action of getting it? No. It is totally what? It is counterproductive. Okay? So this is what we are saying, that we get into a counterproductive cycle which keeps us further from the goals that we are trying to achieve. So what is an attempt? That once you take care of your emotional response, not just by saying I should not be this and I should not be that, just by understanding of the fact that there are laws which then govern the result of the actions, then I save the energy for making constructive effort for getting what I want. So this is what we call karma yoga, because the whole thing is you engage in karma, and the biggest challenge is what? That when things don't happen your way, there is frustration, there is sense of failure, there is anger. So all that now you have to reduce, because now you are using karma for what? Your antakarna shuddhi. Antakarna shuddhi means to become a person whose objective, who is not operating out of dissatisfaction.
Question can I ask now? Or?
Yeah.
See, look at a very skillful sportsman. You know? He has this ability to understand the result and analyze his actions and improve on it. And you look at a Tendulkar or a Federer or all that. they get better and better at it. But there is a point at which their skills go down because of their age.
Yeah, exactly.
And they get frustrated at that point. I know everything, but I am not winning. Now, so there is another factor which is you yourself, your skills.
Exactly, because see,
So there is age, and that is very difficult to accept.
see, this is where then, when do they exit? Whole life.
Exactly.
The whole life.
Well, I am
is
going through this kind of
series-
thing at my age.
Whole life is series of decisions. The decisions don't end at the age of 25.
Yeah.
Tendulkar makes decision at the age
Age
of
of 40.
25,
Yeah.
and then he makes it at 40, then he makes it at 45.
And for at 40,
then he,
it's very
Yeah.
difficult for him to decide, now I can't play, I have to retire.
Exactly. But each one has to do. Otherwise, he is kind of what? He's thrown out.
He's thrown
right?
out.
Yeah. So this is where we say that decision making is something that you have to do till the time that
So
you
there are
are
not
alive.
only external factors, there are internal factors.
Internal factors, and things change, and you need to incorporate all the changes in your decision making. So that means something which was appropriate 5 years ago
Yeah.
may not be appropriate now because things have changed, and you constantly have to revise
Things have
what
changed.
are the variables at work. Okay, so this is why that decision making you need to be alert.
But you
There is no
can
formula.
make mistakes. You, instead of attributing it to external, you can attribute it to internal, or vice versa.
See,
That is why analysis is important.
internal you can do it in two ways. One is you say I'm no good. That is a very destructive way. Okay. The other way is what can I do now? Let me try to. That is a very constructive way. Okay. So that means internal also depends upon how you use that capacity to understand things. Okay. So this is now, so how is Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga is, what is it asking you to do? The same karma which becomes a problem, because what? When situations don't happen your way, there is frustration. Now how do you use to gain a certain samatva? By understanding that there are laws at work. And within that, still I can try to get what I want, but make constructive efforts. Okay? Because once you have a certain composure, you will be far more creative in finding a solution than be caught in what? This vicious cycle of emotional, feeling of failure and inadequacy and things like that. So you have to stop that. Because it's very natural to get into it, but you can use your free will and your knowledge of how the results come to get out of that habitual pattern of responding to results. So it is not easy because we are used to responding in a certain way. You have to use your discretion and you have to do things differently.
I have a clarifying question. So
Yes.
is this applicable only to pursuit of moksha, or is it applicable to other pursuits also?
You can have it in other pursuits, true, right? But here,
Yeah, this is
Karma
asking.
Yoga, that is true. I mean, anybody who's interested in self-growth can know this.
And it's not necessary that so for instance, you may hear of, or maybe there is a scientist or some painter or something, and they get frustrated, there's negative emotion, or there is a scientist, but he keeps or she keeps at it, and they may, even through frustration, they may get a result that they are looking for just by trying harder, and the frustration may drive a creative or a different approach to the problem. Their mental state is being destroyed, they are not very a happy person, but they get to this solution maybe less efficiently than the person who was yogi, or felt, okay, there is a causal chain, I need to accept it, I need to try something different, be more constructive. They may be frustrated, but that frustration could also drive constructiveness.
See, we think that the frustration can drive, but actually, as I said, you can still be very persistent in getting it, right? So there are two human beings, both are trying. One is very frustrated and trying. The other one is what? Free from those burdens and trying. We are not saying one is trying and one is not trying.
Right. But these guys may be more efficient, the people who are not frustrated.
Exactly.
What Edison
Exactly.
says. No?
Yeah.
Sorry? Edison.
Well, he said that he tried to make that electric bulb in so many different ways. He tried it 98 times.
Right.
He was successful the 99th time. For him, okay, this didn't work, so let me try out something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you are frustrated, electric bulb hone wala nahi hai, chhod do, then the bulb wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Insistence.
No, we sometimes mistake by saying that the frustration is a driver, okay, and it motivates, but that need not be the case.
That need not,
That
definitely,
need not be the
yes,
case.
you know that.
So you can be driven
Yes.
without being frustrated.
Absolutely, yes, that's the
See, the
important
So
thing.
that
problem
is-
is that supposing I am trying 4 things and 3 things don't work out, and one decision can be I am not capable of doing any of these 3 things, so let me try a 4th, and I may be very successful at the 4th. Or I may make a mistake and say that I have not tried the first 2 or 3 things, I must try it in another way. So I don't know which one. It's not easy.
It is not easy, that's true. But you know that the life path, at any given point in time, you have made decisions,
Yes.
right? I mean, one chooses options. Now, that is something that you are doing regardless. Either you do
Yeah.
it with frustration or you do it without
That is
frustration.
true.
That's all. Okay. So, that is something that we need to know, that the next verse first is to understand what is it that I control and what is it that I don't control. That is verse 47 and 48. Having understood that, then what is my attitude towards the result of action is mentioned in verse 48. Okay, so here he says, Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. So here he says samatvam is the yoga, is karma yoga. What is samatvam? Equanimity. How do you get equanimity? Because otherwise what happens is people give you an advice. Oh, you should be equal. Then you don't know how to be equal.
Yes.
Right? Because they said, in success and failure, you should be equal. How? Nobody can be totally equal. Okay? When you get something, a huge salary increase, and when you get sometimes salary cut, you can't be just exactly the same. You can't be, right? So therefore, here, it's not an advice. It is only based on your understanding of how the laws operate. Once you understand that there is some bigger logic to everything that happens in my life, then you are not in a reacting mode. You are more on a deliberate, constructive mode by saying, how can I use this order to my advantage by making enough effort for choices of my action. Okay? So this is what we mean by samatvam yoga uchyate. Okay? So yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva. Now here we are not talking about karma yoga is often mentioned as that when you perform an action without expecting a result. We are not talking about that. Okay? Any action that you perform, you have some result in mind. It's impossible to perform an action without expecting a result. Okay? Now, what happens is, why is there this advice that please perform an action without expecting a result? Why do you think people make, this is a very common translation of these verses. Okay? I used to wonder why they do it, because when you have an expectation, only then there is what? Success and failure, right? When things don't happen according to your expectation. So let's say I'm planning to, I want to come within first 10 in the class, and I come number 8, then I'm success, because I want within 10. But if I wanted to come within first 5, and if I come 8th, then what?
It's failure.
It's failure. So that means
So it is a
what
result.
decides whether it is a success or a failure? It is my
Expectation.
expectation. So then they give you an advice that if you give up your expectation, then will there be any measure through which you will say that there is a success or a failure? Okay? So this is what seems like, but this is not the case. We don't say that. Okay? The problem with this logic is, okay, nobody can do an action without expecting a result. Okay? It seems like a
Then
very
you won't
clever
act.
way, right?
If you are not
Exactly.
expecting any result, you will not act.
Absolutely, right? It is impossible. You come here because you expect to understand something which will help your life. I sit and I talk to you because I expect that you will understand and it will help you in some way. Nobody performs just actions without expecting anything. That is impossible. That is a human mind. Okay? There is a Sanskrit saying that prayojana vina mandaha api na pravartate. Okay? Without some end in mind, even the dull-witted person will not engage in action.
Correct.
Okay? So therefore, we are not giving an advice. Lord Krishna is not giving an advice that don't expect result. What he is saying is, know this fact. The fact is that there is a law which governs the result. And that takes into consideration many more variables from the present and the past than you can think of. And therefore, once you understand that, then you can have a certain composure. Okay? And also use your knowledge of those laws cleverly so that you can get what you are looking for. Okay? So this is what he says. This is the type of samatvam that he is talking about. Now, when it comes to performing action where you have free will, then how should one use one's free will? That is explained in the next verse. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ube sukrita dushkrute tasmat yogaya yujjasva yoga karma sukaushalam. Here he says karma yoga is discretion in action. Okay? Yoga karma kaushalam. Okay?
Skill.
Now,
Kaushal is skill.
Kaushalam is skill and skillful way of
Acting.
acting. Okay? So here a certain wisdom in my actions. Okay. Now, how does one generally, when one performs an action, what is the criteria? What do I perform an action for?
Some gain.
Sorry?
Some gain.
Some gain. Exactly. I want to have some gain for myself, for my family, or whatever. So there is this whole model in Sanskrit which is given that every action is normally governed by what we call raga and dvesha. Raga is something that I like. What I like, either I want to gain, as the way is saying, or what if I already have it, then I want to retain
Maintain.
it. Okay? So this is what we call yoga and kshema. I want to get what I like and I want to retain what I like. And what I dislike, I want to avoid, and I want to what? If I already have it, I want to get rid of it. Okay? So this is how one engages in action. To fulfill one's raga and dvesha. In that, to a certain extent, is okay also. Because your raga and dvesha will make you the unique person and you will engage in a world in your unique manner. Okay? Now, the problem comes with reference to when my like for something is so strong, and if I have to sacrifice certain universal values, what will I do? What is a universal value? Universal value is something that every human being is born with. Every human being, along with free will, is given a certain understanding, a certain common sense value which guides one's free will. It comes in a very simple form. It comes in a form that I don't want to be hurt, I don't want to be cheated, I don't want to be lied to. This is something which is known to everyone, regardless of whether the person is born in Latin America or in India or in Australia, male, female, whatever religion, everybody knows that. But everybody also knows the fact that others don't want also to be hurt, not to be cheated, not to be lied. So that means that then becomes a common norm for our interaction. It is not because of what the religion has told us, it is not because our parents have taught us, it is not because our teachers have told us, it is something, according to the Vedic vision, it is guided by one's common sense. Along with the free will, you are given this common sense values. That's why the creation is perfect. Otherwise, free will is like driving a car. Imagine you are given a car to drive without a brake. Okay. So free will is given along with a brake of your understanding how much you can use your free will. Okay. If you can use it as much as you want, provided what? You don't hurt anyone, you don't cheat anyone, you don't lie to anyone. If you avoid that, you can use your free will to achieve whatever you want. Right? We are not telling you not to achieve things. Achievement is something that everybody wants. But how do you achieve it is the question. Okay? So that means in your achievement, if you have to sacrifice universal value, then what will you choose? That is what we call, where is your majority? If your promotion or your wealth you want at any cost, this is what, why India was, hopefully now things are changing, but in between, one of the most corrupt countries. The government officers, they don't know that it is wrong thing to do. They all know it. They know it, in spite of knowing, they do it. Why?
Because he thinks he can get away with it.
Exactly. So that means he's assessing his whole situation from the standpoint of his own gain. Okay? He looks at the situation, by taking this bribe, what will I gain? I get lots of money. And he knows exactly what he can do with this lots of money that he is going to get. Okay? But in terms of his loss, then he says, okay, now my conscience says that I should be honest. And let me go now with my conscience. And I'll be honest. Then he imagines, so what will be my gain? I've just been honest, but I will lose everything. And with the money, I know I can buy a nice apartment, I can buy a big car, I can send my kids to good school. So all these, what? I won't get. So now, the person is assessing the situation from the standpoint of not what he's supposed to do, but from the standpoint of what? His personal gain. Okay? And if he assesses the situation from his personal gain perspective, then what? Cheating wins anytime. Okay? Now, if you were to change his behavior, what one would do? No amount of lecture of what is the right thing to do and how government officers should be responsible is going to make any change in him. Why? Because he knows it. It's not that you're telling him anything new. The only way to change him is to make him see his personal gain and loss differently.
Valmiki.
Huh?
Valmiki is best example for that.
Yeah, Valmiki is a good example for that. Okay? So that means, now make him see, keep the criteria the same, personal gain. Don't change the criteria, national good and this and that. Because national good and all, you say, yeah, sure, and he'll continue to do whatever. Okay? Keep the same criteria and make him see the situation completely differently. If you are successful in doing that, then you will influence his behavior. So now, how would one make the person see the situation differently? Okay? First, this is what we call, the whole approach of Gita and Upanishad is not to give you an advice, but to make you see certain realities. Okay? So make the person see the value of following values. Means there is some gain. Maybe it is intangible, but it is a gain. So, we start by saying that if you have done something which you know is wrong, then immediately the universe, the same laws which produce the result of your action, will give you a feedback almost instantaneously. And what is going to be that feedback? Guilt. The minute you go against what you know, not what somebody else tells you, okay, you know is a wrong action.
I have a question here. I feel guilt,
Yeah.
I don't know whether everybody feels guilt. How do I know that?
So that means when you say, and when I say almost everybody agrees, that means that there is a
No,
guilt
I am just
feeling.
giving you an example. People like Sharad Pawar. I don't know whether he has any guilt sense.
See, sometimes what happens is that they have...
Or Modi. I'm sorry.
Whoever.
Yeah. See, sometimes people have reasoned their thing so much that
Yeah.
they have become so insensitized. But you know, the laws have a way of communicating and they have to pay for it one way or the other. But this is for a common man. Let's not look at some big exceptions. Generally, there is an immediate feedback.
Okay, let's look at it generally.
Right? So therefore, there is this immediate feedback of guilt. There is also a second feedback, which is what? Fear. Fear of being caught. Okay? That nobody can totally avoid. You may kind of try to say, okay, now how do I manipulate all those people and keep them under my control so that they don't say anything. But once you do that, you're constantly what? Fearful. If
Yeah.
somebody says something, then you are gone. So that means that inbuilt fear you cannot totally avoid. So guilt and fear are two things that you cannot avoid. Okay. Now what happens is that you also, in addition to guilt and fear, you fall in your self-esteem if you know something is to be done and you don't do it. Okay. There is a slight feeling that I know something which is right, but I can't do it. There is a loss of self-esteem. Okay? There is guilt, there is fear, there is loss of self-esteem. You may compensate that loss of self-esteem by what? Showing more power, showing more, these are all just defense mechanism. What you see out there, people asserting their power and all, sometimes they are very fragile human beings. They appear to be very strong, very, authoritative, but they are suffering from many insecurities down below. Okay, so these are the three things. Then what can happen is that once you sacrifice, the second time you sacrifice the guilt feeling, then what happens? Your mind is basically afflicted with compounded guilt feelings, compounded fears from different sources. Okay? Compounded feeling of I'm no good. Okay? So that means the complication keeps on growing further and further. Then over a period you develop an orientation because you know that you are not following the values. In your vision, how long does it take for others also not to follow the values? If you can do it, others can also do it. Whether they are doing it or not, in your vision, you think of yourself as a good person and you can do it, then other people also will equally do it. That means your interaction with others will be fraught with what? Distrust, suspicion. Imagine how many intangible complications you are accumulating for yourself when you go against universal values. So with all these different tensions and fears and all, it can start manifesting in your being as what? General anxiety, general frustration, general nervousness. You don't even know what this particular nervousness, what can it be attributed to. You don't know. Okay? But all these conflicts which are there in the mind manifest in some ways. It can just manifest in the way that when you are sitting, you can't just be normal.
Fidgety.
Yeah, exactly. Right? There is so much nervousness that we all carry within us, which is all this tension which is undetected. We don't know what it is all about. Okay. Sometimes it can manifest as what? The physical ailment, because once your mind is afflicted, it starts appearing on your body too. Okay. So that means there are series of things that
Effects.
happen which are intangible. So therefore, you think, you tend to ignore it. Okay? Because what is very tangible is the house, the car, the education, that's very tangible. All these things are slightly intangible, so you tend to ignore it. But if you bring those in the equation, then you will see the whole situation differently, because they are huge. Okay? You can be surrounded by everything, but if you are not available, and if your mind is in conflict, and you are anxious, and you are frustrated, okay, and you have fearful mind, and you have low self-esteem, what will you enjoy? Okay? So that means keeping the same criteria, which is your personal gain. If now you see the whole equation differently, then you will reassess how you make the decisions. Okay? Because it's not easy to go against the laws and be a winner. It may appear to be so in the short run, but in the long run, nobody wins. Okay? It is like our teacher was saying that there is a tree which is just standing there. Okay? And you go and you rub against the tree. Who gets hurt? Does the tree get hurt? You come back with a sore back. Okay? Because the tree is standing there. The laws are what they are. They are not out there to get you or anything. You use your free will to go against them. You create a friction. When you create, using your free will, when you create a friction, then you end up what? With this
Hurting
yourself. If this is how you understand, how will you use your free will? With a certain responsibility. Okay? And for your own sake. Because you are protecting yourself by not going against dharma. Okay? So this is what is said in the Karmasu Kaushala. Because what we tend to do is see the short-term gain and we overlook all the implications of our action. Okay? And according to, if you take this whole thing of karma even further, then what? In addition to all of this, you are given unseen result, which is what we call punya and papa. Okay? The unseen result for a good action is what we call punya, and unseen result for an inappropriate action is what we call papa. And that will fructify sometime, but you won't be able to connect. That this is the action I did 10 years ago and therefore I am getting this result right now. But the laws are connecting the past with the present constantly. The laws don't stop in 1 day or 2 days. Every law connects what? The past to the present for how long?
Forever.
Forever, exactly.
So this is what you say is so true, you know. For instance, if people are nice to me and are kind to me, I may not be able to return that kindness to them, but I'll return it to somebody else.
Exactly.
So then the whole world is better off.
Absolutely.
On the other hand, if somebody gives me a slap, I'll go and slap a third person, you know. And so it'll go on.
I have a question, and sometimes Jagdish asks me this, and it really troubles me and causes pain in my mind. So basically, what about harm that I'm causing inadvertently just by virtue of who I am? So for instance, Jagdish often asks me, Malay, just because you went to a certain school, you got a certain degree, you are by the very virtue of who you are exploiting people in a lower socio-economic strata without even intentionally wanting to, and you are keeping them subdued in a place of lower ability because of your abilities and your status in society or the kind of job you hold versus the kind of job they hold. It's almost like a pyramid, and so that inadvertent hurt. So it's very clear if you have a conscious choice, I'm slapping someone, that is obviously going to be hurtful, sacrificing a universal value. But if I'm doing it just by
Without
virtue of who I am.
See, one thing you have to understand that you have not organized the whole universe.
True.
So to take the burden for everybody and to be what they are is completely unnecessary. Okay? Because there is already.
No, but his point is,
a-
I might be doing things unknowingly which harm people.
But if I'm just going to school, enrolling in school, I'm not harming anybody. I'm not using my free will to keep away somebody. I'm not. Right? So I'm not responsible for other people and other people. If I'm doing something very, very deliberately to keep somebody else away so that I can get in, then yes, I'm responsible.
Is the intent, if my intent is
No,
harmless,
but if
then
you
fine.
take this
And
argument further, your argument, this is Thomas Piketty. This inequality in the world is caused by people who have things
That's what he was
getting
saying.
more.
That's the exact point he was making.
That's
the
the
whole
point.
order or a Harvard Business School graduate comes with a privilege and he goes there because he is.
And people who have money, their money
reinforces the
will go on
privilege.
accumulating.
That's the point.
Or maybe even a more subtle one. This is a very common practical question, that suppose I'm on a red light and a beggar comes to beg from me. I don't want to turn them away, but I fear that if I give them money, I might cause them more harm than if I were to withhold. And so it's almost like I don't know which is the less hurtful thing to do.
Yes.
It's almost like shades of grey.
It's shades
and-
of grey. That is absolutely true. You're absolutely right. There are so many
Or
unknowns.
the very
right?
act of breathing, you are killing some organisms you're breathing in.
See, there is
That's hard.
Jainism.
That is why the Jains put a.
That is fact. What you say is fact, but it is then you are going deep into Jainism.
Won't you?
I would actively kill a
I'm
mosquito.
sorry.
I would actively kill a mosquito.
But Swami Dayananda will say that you acquire a partner. Or if you get dengue, you will necessarily take something that will kill the dengue within your blood so that you live, but you're killing some soul somewhere. You could argue.
one could argue, and that's why we accept. We say that total ahimsa is not possible. Nobody. You eat plants, right? Every day, even if you're vegetarian, you're still
It's a
plants
question
also
of the
have life.
mosquito or me, so I'll kill the mosquito.
It is the least possible harm.
Before mosquito
That's all.
kills me, I'll
Okay?
say.
The least possible harm, that
Yeah.
means that's all. Otherwise, I'm entering into some ideal which doesn't exist. And at least I'm careful with my free will. And in fact, the laws of
There are no
Vishwas
absolute
are such.
answers. That's
Absolute.
what it
Milk is
means.
considered one of the greatest exploitations otherwise.
I
This
beg your
is-
pardon?
Most people-
I think the commercially produced milk
Any
in for instance the West, I would agree with that. But if you look at the way they rear organic milk, or they produce organic milk where the cows are left to go on the pastures, and in India also there are many places where they are allowed to run free, and as opposed to leaving them in the wild for natural predators to eat, it might be more humane to actually do that. But you're right, most milk that we consume in Mumbai is of a very
any and
inhumane
all milk
variety.
is exploitation. Any and all milk.
And milk is meant for the calf, not for you.
As is
The
honey.
point is, I think there is no end to this.
But if the cow is reared or
very much
bred,
shade in Jainism.
Yeah.
but if the cow is bred
People-
to have higher
people don't
quantities
take
of milk
milk
that
at
the
all.
calf is allowed
Milk and milk,
or
right.
can
There are
consume,
many vegan people now.
Many vegan
people,
Yes.
many vegan
All over the
people.
world.
Yeah,
They are-
all over the
they are
world.
not-
Jains, I didn't know they don't eat dairy food.
No,
They eat.
they eat.
No,
Jains
there are
eat.
Jains who are vegans.
There are Jains
Milk
who
and
Jains
milk.
can be very. There are Jains who are very.
Jains.
Honey is considered exploited.
My daughter's
honey I would agree,
sister-in-law, she
not so
doesn't
much
like-
with milk.
Because
Because we have big cows now that produce so
Let's,
much milk that is in
Okay.
excess. Sorry.
No, that
But
is
we were
true.
just doing the
Yeah.
I know it's-
Yoga Shastra.
Yeah, exactly. This is something which is what he says is true, right? There is no absolute at the level of karma.
So
Okay?
least
Exactly. In Jnanam, what do you discover? What did we discover? What is the nature of Atma? It is Sat Chit Ananda, which is what? Pervaded by everything and is free from everything. Everything depends upon it for its existence. That is what is the absolute. And this is what you want to ultimately know. This is what will get you freedom. Okay? Now, in karma there is no absolute. Because karma, within, you are living
Yes.
within relative. Okay? Within relative there are no absolute answers. Okay? And therefore, we try what? The least possible harm. That's all. Just be aware. The extreme that if you think that I will never do any harm to anyone is not possible. Okay? But just be a little bit more deliberate in choosing your actions. That's all. So therefore, as much as possible, follow the universal values, because if you don't, then what? The results, you have to somehow bear the result. Okay? You cannot escape the results. So therefore, it is smart living if you follow dharma. You are helping yourself. You are not helping somebody else. That's all. And
Or, that same point that who was that French princess who said, why don't they eat cake?
yeah, if they can't afford
Marie Antoinette.
If they can't get bread, why don't they eat cake? Well,
Yeah.
she is living in like Harvard graduate, right there, the royal family, and she is bearing the consequences of not what she has done, but what the entire community has done. It
But you
is
know-
complex. I mean,
See-
we blame her for the.
See, I think you cannot really be a Siddharth. I mean, you cannot be completely shut off from the rest of the world.
Exactly.
As soon as she goes out in her horse carriage, she
Yes.
can see that guy is poor,
Correct.
he's sweating, he's diseased and all that. She immediately sees it. But unlike Siddharth, who was sensitive and it impacted
She was
him,
not.
my guess is that.
Yeah.
see, total equality is not possible. Because we are not all born equals. This equality is a human construct. Okay? When we say the laws of cause and effect apply, imagine we all act very differently and we all have exactly the same result. You are very, very saintly and he is a criminal and you
The result
are,
is still the same. It
Exactly.
cannot
and
be.
result will be the same. And so our construct of justice, of equality means justice itself is wrong. Because if actions are different, they necessarily have to have what? Different results. Okay? So that means
concern is
the
on
result.
exploitative order.
Yeah.
The worry comes on George Bush, that kind of stuff.
Then
The
he
mass
will have to,
bombings, the shock and awe, that kind of
So-
children dying by actual deliberate actions of a powerful state.
then that state has to pay. You need
Sure.
not
Yes.
carry the burden
Yes,
of it, right?
yes.
And that is why civilizations.
Sure.
Ebb and, yeah.
There was Roman
Wait.
civilization and there was American civilization. It is on the
And now
decline.
it is on the decline, you know. So that means even the nature has a way
Yes.
to take care of all of that, right? And we as human beings need not carry the burden of all the different people, actors performing different actions. This is a nice story. I will end by this story. It's there was this, I think I told you the story. There was a person traveling in train and he was carrying a huge basket. I think I told you the story. Carrying a huge basket of lots of vegetables. Okay? And somebody who was a co-passenger asked him, so he says, why are you carrying such a big basket of these vegetables? So he started saying, you know what, I was not educated and the only thing that I can do to earn my living is sell vegetables. I have to go from one village to the other and I have to sell, I have to support my family. It's so difficult and nowadays the vegetable prices are down and this and that. And he went on complaining, right? And he was pitying himself and he was showing himself as a helpless person. And the co-passenger all the while, he says, all this is true, he listens to it, but he says, right now, why don't you just put it down and the train will carry it? Why are you carrying such a huge burden on your head? Okay?
Makes sense.
So
Don't carry the whole world's burden on your
world's
head.
burden on you, right? Do
Yes.
your part. Once you do your part, you will make your contribution, and then the world will change. Because otherwise, there is so much going on where people are abusing their free will, but that's not really something that you're directly responsible for. So even if you take care of
If
your
you
part,
cannot be a
it's
Gandhi, then you can at least do a little bit
Your-
whatever you can do.
exactly, your part, and then maybe things will grow in the future. Your activities, your contributions will grow. But right now, the whole thing is to then what? Pay attention to oneself. Okay, how does one choose one actions? Okay, what are the criteria? What does one take into account? How much is one careful in making sure that others are not hurt by one's actions? Okay, that's a very big step towards maturity. Okay?
I have one question, a doubt. I think all the time we talk about ourselves, what I should do about myself.
Yes, yes.
But we never talk about community.
Yes, and that is the next verse.
No.
मैंने क्या करना है पहले क्या करना है साथ में मिलके क्या करें is never
That is
discussed.
exactly the next verse.
Wow.
Good.
Because
How you read my
you
mind?
can be
Or Gita
Lord
read
Krishna,
my
Lord
Lord Krishna.
Krishna read your mind, right? Because it's absolutely right. You can be highly ethical person, just thinking about I'm not cheating anybody,
Yeah.
but still very self-centered.
Correct.
Okay? So now, human growth, how does one use karma is not just ending at what? How do I respond to results? And as far as possible, I don't harm anybody. That is not an end.
That's not enough.
That's not enough. You need to grow as a person, and you need to become bigger. You need to become generous. You need to become a contributor. You need to become much bigger than what you are. And how does one accomplish that through karma is explained in the next verse. So we will see next time.
Maybe next time I have another question. When the moment they start talking of caste, I get a little upset.
But
I don't know how to.
You,
In the Gita.
oh, in the Gita.
Yeah.
So let's see next week what is
Okay.
coming. Then we'll worry about it.
Yeah.
Deal about it.
That's also what I'm saying. Next step.
one thing at a time. Yagna we see first, right? Being a contributor, we see that first, and then Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha